Hey, what's going on, guys? Over here, and welcome back to the Pitlane Podcast, episode number 93 today to review the Hungarian Grand Prix with the usual host, myself and Tom, Callum being away on holiday. And we're just going to do a casual two-man podcast today to review that Hungarian Grand Prix, which, Tom, wasn't exactly an all-time classic, but there are some intriguing moments there. And, of course, it does have a few talking points about how each of the teams go into the summer break and what it kind of means to the championship as a whole as Hamilton wins it ahead of Vettel and Raikkonen.
Yeah, I mean, there was some glimpses there of, the classic Hungary races we've seen with the Ricciardo overtakes and the last lap sort of action. But overall, a bit of a slow burner. I enjoyed it in some ways because, there's also those good results like, Gasly and Alonso, which we'll get into in a moment's time. But, overall, I think a standard race, I wouldn't say it's one of the worst ones of the season, not one of the best. I think like a solid 6.5 out of 10 maybe, just sort of in the middle. An interesting race nonetheless, I think.
Yeah, so we're just going to go team by team then. Since there's just two of us, I think it just makes sense just to keep it nice and structured like that. And I think the conversations might be quite quick, so this might be one of the shorter podcasts that we do. But so Hamilton, Mercedes, obviously Hamilton pretty much just walked that Grand Prix. Is there much else to really say about him?
The master of the Hungaroring, pretty much. Most laps led, most victories
now. It's his sixth win, isn't it? Hungary. Indeed. Or even more?
I think this is his sixth one now.
This is sixth,
I think it's worth mentioning that we mentioned in the preview with Cal about the whole Hungary curse of, he who wins the race does not end up winning the championship.
Since Schumacher in 04.
Interesting. I think it leaves it quite open now because obviously having seen, I don't really believe in these things, but even still, statistically speaking, it's intriguing, how Hamilton hasn't won the race in the V6 era while winning the championship is quite weird considering that's his best ever track. So something different, I think, going into the second half of the season. I think Crofty mentioned on commentary, the gap right now obviously is 24 points going to the summer break. In 2012, when Vettel won the championship, he still managed to turn around a 42-point gap at the summer break. So it's not an impossible task for Sebastian.
Never say never.
Exactly, but I think Hamilton done a top job the last two races. He's absolutely bossed it and deservedly leads the championship into the halfway point because he's obviously recovered and done the best he can. So, Lewis done a good job. As for Valtteri, on the other hand,
let's talk about that. So Bottas was actually doing a pretty good job as I guess you could say a rear gunner if you want to agree or not agree with the purpose of it. But Bottas was the slower Merc basically today, holding up the Ferraris, and he tried the one stop, and it would have worked out, and it would have maybe been a case of praising Valtteri for his tyre saving. But then with like 5 laps to go, hits Vettel as Vettel overtakes him into turn 1. Valtteri just isn't able to slow it down enough, hits Seb, and then later on, turn 1, Ricciardo goes for the move on the outside, and Bottas, literally, it was quite funny on the Sky feed at least, because I know you watch Spanish commentary, Tom, but...
No, I watch Sky.
Did you watch the Sky one?
On
All
stream,
right, so Christian was talking to Crofty, literally the moment that happened, so that was hilarious to just be like...
He just went quiet.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't understeer into... Oh, fuck.
It was just 3 seconds of silence of just, fuck. And then Crofty was like, sorry, I've got to take over from you, so...
Yeah. Because you otherwise know that Horner would just be like, fucking twat, blah, 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 blah. So that was, red card, Valtteri, red card. Unfortunate, mate, unfortunate.
I thought it was quite interesting how Sky F1 thought, if anything, it was Sebastian's fault, the turn 2.
I don't get that.
I don't get that at all.
Knowing his tyre situation, I like, it's literally, you can only call it as Valtteri's fault. The tyres were clearly going off. Yeah. It's obviously not even, that's his fault, but as in, it's like half is just his tyres. Obviously, the tyres are your job to manage, but as in, he can't really do much. I think in the Seb situation, I think in the Ricciardo situation, he just understeers wide. I think he maybe should have accepted he was going to get overtaken, maybe, but he was trying. To be fair, he was trying his hardest, and then it's a case of when you're already halfway through the corner, you're a passenger at that point of your car understeering. It's unfortunate.
Sure, I know how Twitter would have reacted if this had been, say, the other way around, so Raikkonen had taken out Hamilton when he's just managed to pass him off the whole race. The conspiracy theories would have been off the chart, saying taking out the championship favourite.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So
I'm not saying nothing. I'm not pointing any fingers.
Yeah,
but
no,
you know exactly what I mean when I say this.
Yeah,
so for me,
fully.
Could there have been some... That's not the sort of move Bottas would normally go for, in my opinion. I think that was a very aggressive attempt of getting back ahead of Sebastian. So, whether that's from the whole controversial lap 1 incident, with the Ferraris taking out Mercedes and whatnot, who knows? Maybe there's some sour grapes there, but Sebastian incredibly lucky to not get anything from that. I don't know how he didn't get a puncture from that.
Yeah, I
really
mean, that was the
don't know.
biggest worries. Like, especially because the part that Bottas lost, the wing, that part, we've seen it in the past where there's like a tiny tap from that corner and it cuts a tyre. Like, so very, very, lucky in that sense, and lucky in the sense of it actually happened in terms of getting Vettel the second. So damage limitation there in terms of, try to obviously overtake Bottas and just try and do something clever with the Ferraris. With the Mercs, trying to jump one of them, or and just trying to chase after Vettel, Hamilton maybe, but didn't work out. So the next best thing is just to damage limitation the race and get second place, and they did that. So fair enough. Do they go into the summer? Like, how do you feel that they're going to go into summer break now, Ferrari? Like, some people are asking me before the race, like, can Seb still win it? And I was like, yeah, fully. They just have to make sure they're not making mistakes and they capitalize on situations when they handed them. Into the break, in terms of development, obviously Ferrari in the past have been known to fall behind a little bit. What should we reckon?
I think they don't have to second guess or overcomplicate things. I think what they've done so far is really good. I don't think they need to panic or change stuff for the sake of changing it. They've got a big engine upgrade coming for Spa. I mean, Haas and Sauber ran it this weekend, apparently 40 plus horsepower. But they decided to not run it on the works car and wait until Spa and Monza. So they'll have a fresh, upgraded power unit for the power circuits. So they've already got a development for the second half of the season, so they don't tail off too much already in the works. They're not showing any signs of slowing back. So I think for once, I actually trust them to keep it up. I think also it helps now, you could say they have the best car so they have that edge. So even if they do lose it a bit, they'll still be there or thereabouts. For me last year, they never really had the best car.
I think they had the most comfortable
just
car.
Grasping on, for as much as they could, but now they've actually got something to work with. So I don't think they've got worried too much. I've got to give a shout out to Raikkonen, 5 podiums in a row. He looked a dead man walking, and he probably says a dead man walking when it comes to the controversy situation and with Leclerc taking his potential seat for next season. I think we might have heard something this weekend, but I think the whole Marchioni thing might have just put a damper on that.
Maybe, yeah.
But for sure, Kimi's been, I've got to say, I think he's been driving really well lately. 5 podiums in a row, and he's third in the championship, and he's only like 30 points behind Vettel. 35, something like that. So to say he's never won a race, he's not doing too bad, and I think he's quite, after that, I think he's like 15, 20 points clear of Bottas. So
he's been a consistent second, man.
Yeah, sure. The last few races he's been doing really well. So not bad. I think Ferrari overall though today did the best they could. Obviously in the wet, Mercedes in the qualifying did a fantastic job. Whether that Ferrari works as good in the wet as in the dry, who knows? In the wet, ultimately it comes down to driver skill, and Hamilton just bossed it in qualifying. So I think that was an interesting payoff. But overall, all in all, I don't think Ferrari can be too disappointed going to the summer break. I think they don't need to worry. I think they're all right. I think they just need to, like you said, stop making mistakes. But I think that applies to both teams because Mercedes have been making mistakes as well with strategy.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
Ferrari,
it's going to be the battle of the less mistakes wins this championship.
Well, Ferrari have made Mercedes look a lot better over the last 3 races, basically, because it could have been a lot worse for Merck. And I think that's the interesting thing coming from a neutral perspective of it's a very intriguing second half of the season because you've got the team that are not necessarily actually on paper the fastest at every circuit are ahead by a decent margin, and Ferrari should be able to, in theory, make a lot of that ground up, hopefully, you would say. And it's going to be a case of, that this attack versus Mercedes' defence of trying to limit the damage when they can and then taking the chances when they can, like they have done today with the quali and whatnot. So it's going to be, unlike 2017, where it kind of just, after Singapore, kind of just went downhill. And like you said, Tom, Ferrari didn't actually have necessarily the fastest car at any point in the year. It was kind of just holding on this time round.
On paper, they go into Spa Monza with a 40 horsepower engine upgrade, which to a car which is much faster than last year's one. So if they do a good job at Spa, if they win at Spa, they will automatically just be so hungry with the Marchioni thing, and then go into their home race with an actual car that can compete. With
I think they have to. I think they have to win Spa.
If they win at Spa, and I think they have to, and I think they might, because I think now they do have the better car, especially if this upgrade is what it's meant to be. If they win at Spa and then they carry it over to Monza and then they go to Singapore, which we know Mercedes really do struggle, and Hamilton got a massive rub of the green last year with the whole situation on lap 1. If it's a normal race, you have to now think if the engine upgrade is what it is. The next 3 races or so, Ferrari need, and you have to fancy them to pick up the points. So Hamilton's done a good job of getting that 24-point gap because he might be in the back foot for a couple of races.
Yeah, and that's why in the championship, for his sake, it's good to have those kind of gaps. That's why you look to get those gaps because you're going to have ebbs and flows. So that's an interesting fight, and neat way to end it in terms of going to the summer break. It's going to be, as you said, Tom, like the hunger's going to be on. It's an interesting
contrast.
The hunger's going to be on.
The shoe's on the other foot. This time last year, Vettel was leading into the summer break, but we knew Hamilton had the faster car. This year, Hamilton leads into the summer break, but we know Vettel has the faster car now. So complete contrast, and Vettel won the last year Hungary Grand Prix. Hamilton won this year's one, so it's a complete contrast, a complete 180. Even today in the strategy at times, it was shades of last year when Mercedes switched their cars last year, and right at the last lap, Hamilton gave the place back.
Yeah.
There was a bit of that going on, and maybe Raikkonen might have a go at Bottas and then give the place back to Vettel. It's almost a mirror image of last year. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it was very odd in that way. Moving on then to after Raikkonen, Ricciardo. So Red Bull, let's talk about Verstappen's for race first because that'll take shorter. Obviously, retirement very early on. And Horner's radio message was the funnier part of just like, Verstappen's radio was the funnier part of.
It was brutal.
Yeah, can I just blow this engine up because I really don't care anymore? And then Martin Brundle with a really great question to Christian Horner whilst the race was going on, asking, what do you do because you've paid so much money for Renault? Is there a way of talking about compensation or something like that? And literally Horner almost wanted to say yes, but he kind of had to put the PR words on, but kind of be like, well, yeah, we are paying a lot for a top brand, a top product, and it's not delivering at the moment. It's tough to take.
You could feel the tension, couldn't you?
Yeah,
really feel the tension.
Fully. When he said we're paying for a top product, and he didn't say it's an engine supply, or we're working with Renault here. I'm paying for a product, and it's like going to Asda and going, I paid for this product, and it's failed me. I've paid for a full sugar Coke, and it's turned out to be Coke Zero. I'm disappointed.
No, it felt something like that, but the shots were there to be heard around the world. It was really intense. Yeah. And to be fair, Red Bull were nowhere this weekend. It really shocked me. I mean,
in the wet,
you could argue the race pace was better.
Talk about Saturday.
But I mean, even let's say if Ferrari won two and the anchor's off and they could just run at race pace, I don't think Red Bull would have had an answer for that. So realistically, it might have been Red Bull versus Mercedes, but in the wet in qualifying, Verstappen 7th, Ricciardo P12.
Yeah, I mean, Verstappen got out-qualified by the Toro Rosso, so
yeah, I know.
I don't know what on earth
Ricciardo
Red Bull had.
Did say, I think he was on his lap when Stroll put it in the barrier, and that was the best chance to put a lap in. So after that, he was pretty much a dead man walking.
Yeah, he got unlucky.
So, but even still, Red Bull, not as quick as I thought they would be. Put it that way.
Very surprised.
Yeah, don't know where that's gone. That pace has gone, but overall, I think a weekend where they, for example, could do with a bit of a regroup in the summer break.
I think Ricardo said it after quali, even before this race. I don't know if the race will change things for him, but after quali yesterday, he was saying he's just looking forward actually to some time off because he just needs to recuperate a little bit because having so many punches to the gut like this must be very... And now also for Verstappen, they'll both be wanting the break just to cool off.
Yeah, I think it's come at a good time for Red Bull summer break. This is a very conveniently time out, if so to speak, for them. So they'll probably want to come back stronger. So races like Singapore, for example, they'll be there. They'll take a bit of pain at Spa and Monza.
Yeah.
But they'll definitely be back. And then I think it's only right we move on to the real superstar, one of the superstars of the day today.
We'll jump past Bottas because he came after Ricciardo. But then, I think really for me, the driver of the day in a way is Pierre Gasly. Qualified P6, came home in P6. At one point was up into P5, actually overtook Sainz at the start of the Grand Prix, which was impressive. And then, the lead Red Bull family car for a lot of that race and brings more points home for Toro Rosso and Honda. Best the rest in a Honda-powered car.
A bit of a Bahrain weekend again, wasn't it?
Really fantastic. I'm really, really happy because, last couple of races... Pierre's definitely sounded a lot more downbeat about the Honda and the Toro Rosso and just about, the upgrades aren't coming, we're not really matching them and also the engine's now letting us down at Silverstone. So to have a race like this, great time for them as well. We're talking about timing into the summer break. I think for some teams are it's good timing in a way of they need to recuperate, and it's great timing for teams like Toro Rosso where they can just take positivity and they can enjoy the break and then they come back and hopefully try and just, be a bit more positive about the rest of the season.
And double Q3 as well. Hartley gone to Q3 as well. Overall, I think a good weekend for them. They can't complain. Hartley would be gutted they didn't get to the points because it did seem Toro Rosso had a fast car. But the
I mean, still P11.
The McLaren just pulled an absolute masterstroke of the strategy, and both McLarens got ahead of Hartley, Grosjean, and I think someone else.
Grosjean was surprised. Like, he was asking, like, I thought, what happened here? And his engineer was like, yeah, both McLarens just jumped everyone, not just you, but everyone in the pack that we were with. I'm just as shocked as you, mate. So
Roman, we've taken an L, I'm afraid. Big
yeah,
L.
yeah. I'm sorry. I'm going to hand you this L virtually. So yeah, McLaren's. Yeah, to be fair, I mean, moving towards that order then after Gasly, we talked about Hartley really, so we'll talk about all the teams in between. So Magnussen came after Gasly in P7. Then it was Alonso, Sainz, and then Grosjean. So
Magnussen, good again.
Let's quickly hop to the Haas then before we move back to the McLaren. So yeah, Magnussen just a really solid job. Really, just did the best he could. Stayed ahead of the McLarens. Couldn't catch Gasly, but I think that's more of a case of the Toro Rosso turning up that surprise pace, so he just did the best job he could, really.
I think Magnussen's really surprised me this season. He's
grown into a team leader, hasn't he?
He has, and it's not just a one-off. He's always there or thereabouts. He got unlucky in the last race with the strategy because he had to stack behind Grosjean in the pit stops, and he pretty much was a dead man walking. Otherwise, it would have been him where Roman finished in the last race in P6. Yeah. So, he's been lucky. I think... Magnussen's really shown himself to be a team leader.
He still has those moments of like...
question his tactics.
Yeah, he still has those moments of utter stupidity and tactics of racecraft, but at the end of the day, if he cuts those out, or like when he doesn't have one of those weekends, he's been such a solid driver for Haas. And, there's been talk about the midfield changing a lot for next year, potentially, but one constant is probably Magnussen is going to be back in that Haas, because I think Haas like him as well, being their sole breadwinner, basically, apart from the few points Roman's got, so...
Yeah, I think you made a good point. That's an off-race podcast alone, maybe for next week. The whole last minute.
There's a lot of shuffling potentially,
madness.
And we will leave it for an off-race one. Otherwise, we won't have anything to talk about over the summer, I think. And that's a very interesting. That's a podcast that deserves its own episode, really. But there's been a lot of talk about change. But moving to, go on.
Alonso P8 again. I'm not going to say it. It's the same old thing. But 37th birthday, this guy's pushing 40 again. All right, it's a track that they should have gone well at, fair enough. But this season, the tracks where they should have gone well at, they haven't really necessarily gone that well at, including Monaco. So, good race. I didn't, especially, it sort of solidified that they went really well because Van Dorn, Alonso, fair play, but the real standout performance there was Van Dorn. That's me saying that. They went back to a early season chassis, back when Van Dorn was actually in and around the points, and it worked. Qualifying, he still got knocked down Q1, but on Sunday, he showed great pace. And I think Kravitz put it best when he was sort of shadowing Alonso the whole way through. Yeah, well,
he was just before his retirement. He was like one set. He was in the DRS zone for a couple of laps with Alonso, so he was pushing him and like keeping him honest, basically. So yeah, fabulous drive for Stoffel. It's really, really unfortunate that the gearbox had to conk out. Otherwise, it also would have been a good day for McLaren, even better day for McLaren, because it would have been Alonso and Van Dorn probably solidifying that. What was P8 and P9, wasn't it? So
you could see he was actually quite gutted after he got the car for once. I think that one really hurt him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So again, regroup for him over the summer.
Definitely. No, I mean, if he could have got that W today with the 9th place and then gone to the summer break, I think that would have done him a lot of good.
Yeah.
I think you still take some positives from the performance, but just the fact you don't get them 2 points probably hurts a bit,
Yeah, a little bit gut-wrenching, definitely.
McLaren showed that they still can get it together. And they ran the medium tyres as well in that second stint. They went from softs onto mediums, and they did more laps on softs than on mediums, which was quite interesting. So... different strategy, but it worked out for them. They had good pace, and Alonso even unlapped himself at the end from Bottas. So I think the summer breaks comes at a good time for them. The more time goes on, I'm leaning towards Alonso's going to stay. I feel like he's staying because the IndyCar thing really has gone cold, and I think he hasn't got an option there next season. So I think he might stay on for next year.
McLaren's got some interesting months to see what works out because
apparently he's got an option for next year anyway in his contract.
Along with the driver transfers, there's also Toro Rosso, James Key, involved in that as a technical person that might shop around. Again, we'll talk about that in a later episode because that's very interesting as well. Linked to some driver transfers.
Stuff has gone on.
So there's a lot of juicy stuff to unpack away from the actual race. So we'll get into that in a future episode. So if you're around here, by the way, cheeky plug, do get subscribed to the channel for the podcast, and you can also check us out on iTunes and SoundCloud for the future on audio as well. Links all down below the video. But after McLaren, then Alonso, Carlos Sainz. He qualified P5 yesterday, which was amazing. And then the race was really frustrating to watch him just fall back a little bit. But at least he kept it. I was kind of afraid because Hulk made a great start. gained 4 positions at the start of the race, and I was kind of afraid almost that it was a pattern of maybe, this science just not like the car at the moment in the race, and he's going to fall behind Hulk. But thankfully, he kept it there in P9. Just looked like Renault's struggled for outright race pace today, really.
Yeah, I think you take Hockenheim out of the picture with Hulkenberg, in my opinion, really putting in a stellar performance.
Yeah.
Renault really are fading, aren't they? Lately, the last 4 or 5 races, the
race pace has been up and down, up and down.
Yeah, but even qualifying, they've got knocked out a couple of times in Q2. If you look at it, maybe, okay, you can say Haas maybe are the fastest car, but they're not even consistently there. And I've got to be honest with you, I don't even think 5th place is clear anymore. I thought it was between Haas or Renault, but Renault are fading a bit. Force India show signs, like Hockenheim, they went really well with Force India, so they went absolutely nowhere to be expected. So I think it's just a case that we're starting to shuffle up again. I really do.
Well, the midfield's really good actually to see. Like it's all kind of like, you know, we've talked about Haas being such a weird car that one race can be certain top 4, the 4th best car, and then like go to other races and it's just down there getting knocked out in Q1. So I think the other midfield cars are almost having that in a way, apart from maybe McLaren being a bit more of a constant, like just they're there. But yeah, Renault in the last couple have been going up and down. Force India, like you said, go up and down a little bit. So it's going to be intriguing midfield battle. I mean, we've said it before. That is, unfortunately, probably a bit more of a closer, tastier battle than it is right up at the sharp end, with Red Bull not kind of being there.
Yeah, it's all. We already know this. This is documented. Very well documented.
The good Formula A and Formula B.
Yeah.
But we mentioned Force India then. I mean, Hartley came in P11, and then I don't actually have the full race results here, but I know that they had a very crap race, basically. Force India, unfortunate. They had a bad day in quali. Ocon, though, actually, I want to say that in quali, Ocon might have had a better day. I've now got the full race results. So Hulkenberg was 12th. It was then Ocon P13 and Perez P14. In quali, I don't know if you saw this, Tom.
I think I know what you're going to talk about. Yeah.
Ocon had front brake issues and basically only had the rear brake, so he couldn't have done much.
And he still out-qualified Perez.
And he still qualified Perez. And Perez talked about them just being out, you know, kind of a little bit on the wrong time and just not making the best of conditions. So poor day, really poor day for Perez, unlucky day for Ocon. And then both of them when it comes to the race, I mean, I didn't
they
really
a bit, but nothing special.
Yeah, I didn't expect them to go well around here.
To be expected. Yeah, I think they on a weekend that's been tough for them with the administration situation. A lot of controversy. We will address this in the next podcast, as this is a pretty interesting topic.
Thankfully, there's actually quite a lot of stuff away from the racetrack that we can talk about for the next podcast during the summer break.
Might even have to be over 2 podcasts because there is a lot that's happening.
Yeah, there
might be more happening in the next week. So
maybe.
We might just do a podcast dedicated to Force India alone and the whole financial struggle with F1. But for sure, for them, I don't think they had a shocking weekend considering the surrounding circumstances. I think they just had to get their head down and do a job. They knew they weren't going to have to pace around here. And ultimately, I don't think they can complain. Just try again. They've got 2 good tracks coming up next. They've got 4 weeks to sort out the whole situation with their team. So hopefully by Spa, they will know who owns them. And of course, it's not Lawrence Stroll, but you know, they have 4 weeks to solve it. So yeah, good luck to them. And fingers crossed they come back safe and sound and everything's resolved after the summer break, I feel.
Yeah. Well, after Force India, Sauber, Marcus Ericsson, P15. Unfortunate for Leclerc today, DNF'd, and I tweeted about it. At least he's, you know, the positive here is he's getting some experience as a rookie of the unlucky side of F1. He's had a lot of good, and that's great for him, but I think also sometimes it kind of taints the experience of an F1 rookie if they have too much good luck and good fortune, and it's sometimes good to have a reality check of like, F1, this sport is cruel, and at a snap of a finger, it can get taken away from you. So positives for him, maybe.
Yeah, not this weekend. He even got qualified by Ericsson, to be fair to him. I think playing devil's advocate, you know, you can say the last couple of races, Leclerc has sort of had a bit of a reality check when it comes to F1 and things that can happen in the sport. And you know, there's constant draft rumours, but in the end of the day, Raikkonen, like I mentioned before, has had 5 podiums. Leclerc's struggled in the last couple of races, a couple of mistakes which are not things he normally does. So you could argue and you can make a case playing devil's advocate that, you know, maybe one more year might not be a terrible thing. To wait, you know, Raikkonen just keeps on doing it, doesn't he? He just when you think he's dead and buried, he'll just pop up.
Well, I don't know. It's a tough one for me because doing it just means getting what he's done. But it's good enough for the to basically be the team player in Ferrari. But it's kind of like I would love like to have a Ferrari team where the two drivers are pushing one another each weekend.
Oh yeah, fully.
That would be quite cool. But
I'm quite keen on what Sauber do, because they did say they were very satisfied and excited and actually impressed by Gio's performances. So I wouldn't also mind seeing a Gio Leclerc lineup in the same car next season. That'd be pretty interesting as well.
Yeah.
That'd be tasty.
Now that they have Alfa Romeo, they don't have to worry too much about funding. Alfa Romeo do have a lot of money to
Well, it's not just them, it's the company that actually originally
the company that invested in. But Alfa Romeo have a lot of backing. They have a lot of backing at Alfa. So I don't know, because Ericsson certainly, more than ever, Ericsson was speaking about Hockenheim, about the fact that he's basically driving for his seat and that he would love to stay there. But I think more than ever, he's driving for his seat. In past seasons, he kind of had that kind of cushion of, but I bring a decent amount of money. Now it's really kind of a case of I need to prove that I can still score a couple of points here and there to do well enough for the team. So
I think ultimately it comes down to how much the team depend on his money. Because I think he's had a better season this year. Actually, I think he's doing pretty well this year.
He's done
probably his best season in F1. I'd even say. But yeah, I mean, he's not in a team that needs the money anymore.
It's hard to be compared to what Leclerc's done. If you move away from that, he's had a very solid season in F1. Very, very solid.
Yeah. When you look at other drivers around him, having poor seasons, I don't think he's been too bad. He's kept his head down. So I think he's got three Q2s in a row now. So he's done a bit of a run. So
and then
we'll
finally,
see.
Williams. P16,
and that's that for this
P17,
podcast then.
And that's it. There's actually nothing to talk about. Do you actually want to say something about them or no? Because I don't.
I feel like Sorokin was unlucky. I think he could have got something out qualifying yesterday. I think I really felt his interview when he was saying they kept on thinking the first lap was the one.
Yeah, he said he pushed every single time on the first lap, but they should have brought the tyres in and let them kind of settle down and kind of then do the lap.
You had some teams going for the not heavy, but that fueled for a couple of laps runs.
Yeah.
And they were obviously looking for the one banger sort of, and they just timed it wrong. So I feel like he could have actually maybe done something, but ultimately just I think it's unlucky really, because I think similar to Monaco, Hungary is a Monaco-esque sort of track, and Monaco he went really well. So I do think he could have done something, and we mentioned in the last podcast in the preview, he's sort of impressed us lately. So I'm excited. I'm excited for Sorokin second half of the season, see what he can do. Personally.
I think both of us agreed on last time that we just we fuck with his vibe of the kind of just the vibe he's giving in interviews. He seems like a good morale booster for the team. He recently, as a joke, because some of the mechanics were taking the piss of his gold chains, I think, around his wrist. He bought his entire half of his garage similar gold wristbands, I think it was, basically, to kind of play along with the joke and try and boost morale. And it's good to see, because you need something like that at least to give them some kind of morale boost in such a tough season. So
I think the break comes at a good time for them. I think they might have got a bit of a breakthrough at Hockenheim with the front wing situation.
A little bit.
They've got 4 weeks to work on other things. They put loads of flowbies over the weekend and practice on the car. So they're obviously still working hard. A part of me, just for Sorokin's sake, it does hope they do find something, but that remains to be seen. But overall, we go into the summer break and things are very tasty. I think it's promising to be a very exciting second half of the season. Hopefully, as a neutral, and I don't want to see a repeat of last year where it just all falls apart like a digestive.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want the graphs of the points to diverge completely. I would like it to keep
no crashes, no breakdowns. Keep it nice and fair, and let's just see the battle play out on track and see what happens.
Basically, yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, the next not the next podcast, but the next race, we will be there in Spa. So that will be very interesting to see what happens in person.
Yeah, I think you just summed it up. So the summer break's gonna be interesting. Well, I've probably two, like Tom said, 2 podcasts, I think even. So watch out for those guys. Like I said, if you are new around here, you get subscribed for the podcast. Check out myself and Tom on Twitter. Links are on the screen right now. As I said, you can also check us out on audio in SoundCloud and iTunes. And if you like what we're doing around here, you can also support us on Patreon. Link down below in the video description. But that's been the podcast then for the Hungarian Grand Prix. And we'll catch you guys for the next one, which will maybe be in a week or 2's time to discuss the news of Formula 1. Like we said, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Driver transfers, the Force India news, the McLaren, Toro Rosso kind of links. a lot to dive into. We'll give it time. We'll let the dust settle and see what happens over the next week or two, because there might be some news coming out, and then we'll dive into those. So actually quite a lot of good stuff to talk about for next time. So till then, guys, hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you guys next time.